अब हम लोग देखते हैं इन्वायरमेंटल लॉज एंड इंस्टीट्यूशन। ठीक, इन्वायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986। ठीक, द इन्वायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986, often referred to as umbrella legislation, was enacted to provide framework for environmental protection in India. It was introduced following the भोपाल गैस ट्रेजेडी 1984 के बाद, and to implement decision undertaken the United Nations Conference on Human Environment held in Stockholm 1972. ठीक, की फीचर्स क्या हैं एक्ट के? लेजिस्लेटिव फ्रेमवर्क। आर्टिकल 253 ऑफ द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एम्पावर्स पार्लियामेंट टू इम्प्लीमेंट इंटरनेशनल ट्रीटीज, एग्रीमेंट्स एंड कन्वेंशन लीडिंग टू एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986। अम्ब्रेला legislation, the act overreaches all previous environmental laws, enabling the central government to coordinate environmental policies across various sectors and states. ठीक, ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या है? प्रोटेक्ट एंड इम्प्रूव द एनवायरनमेंट, इंश्योर सेफगार्डिंग ऑफ नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज, पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल एंड एनवायरमेंटल कंजर्वेशन, प्रिवेंशन ऑफ हैजार्ड्स, मिटिगेट रिस्क टू ह्यूमन बींग्स, फ्लोरा फाउना एंड प्रॉपर्टी। ठीक, कोऑर्डिनेशन ऑफ एक्टिविटीज़ क्या? इनेबल इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ नेशनल एंड इंटरनेशनल एनवायरमेंटल पॉलिसीज। रेगुलेटरी प्रोविजंस क्या है? स्टैंडर्ड फॉर एमिशंस एंड डिस्चार्ज, establishes norms for industrial pollution, air quality and water standards. ठीक, prohibition on hazardous substances, regulates handling, storage and use of hazardous chemical and waste management. ठीक, environmental impact assessment, mandate EIA for industrial project infrastructure development, evaluating their environmental impact. ठीक, enforcement mechanisms, penalties for violation, imposes fines and imprisonment for non-compliances with environmental standards, authority to issue directions. The central government can close polluting units, regulate industries and control waste disposal. Case study, the Sterlite copper plant closure 2018, Tamil Nadu. The plant was shut down under provision of Environmental Protection Act 1986 following public protest against pollution and health disasters. हम लोग देखते हैं जेनेटिक इंजीनियरिंग अप्रेजल कमेटी। बैकग्राउंड क्या है? एस्टेब्लिश्ड अंडर एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986, ओरिजिनली नेम्ड जेनेटिक इंजीनियरिंग अप्रूवल कमेटी, रीनेम्ड जेनेटिक इंजीनियरिंग अप्रेजल कमेटी ऑन 22 July 2010, regulating genetically modified organisms, evaluate research, development, commercialization of GM crops and organisms. Environmental safety measures, ensures biosafety standards and prevents ecological harm. Policy advisory role, recommends approval or rejection of GM trials in India. ठीक, अब BT cotton, the only GM crop approved for commercial cultivation in India by GEAC. BT brinjal and GM mustard are under consideration amidst public and scientific debate. ठीक, National Green Tribunal NGT, established on 18th October 2010 under the Green Tribunal Act 2010. Purpose क्या है? Specialized body for effective and expeditious disposal of environmental cases. Current chairperson प्रकाश श्रीवास्तव जी हैं। Jurisdiction कहाँ है? Environment protection deals with cases related to environmental safety, pollution control, natural resource conservation, forest conservation, addresses issues of deforestation, afforestation, ecosystem restoration. Compensation mechanism, provides compensation to victims of environmental disaster and property damage. ठीक, legal framework, Article 21, right to healthy environment is considered a part and right of the right of life under Article 21 of Indian Constitution. Article 48A, directive principle, mandates the state to protect and improve the environment and safeguard forest and wildlife. 51AG, fundamental duty of every citizen to protect the environment and have compassion for living creatures. ठीक है, की फीचर ऑफ NGT, स्पीडी डिस्पोजल, बाउंड टू रिजॉल्व एप्लीकेशन एंड पेटिशंस विद इन 1 month of filing. Legal and technical expertise comprises judicial members and experts from environmental science and public administration. Landmark judgment by NGT Art of Living Foundation case imposed a fine of 5 crore for environmental damage during World Climate Festival and Yamuna plains. Sterlite plant case 2018 upheld the closure of Sterlite copper plant in Thuttokudi, Tamil Nadu over pollution concerns. Vikas Gas Leaks 2020 imposed a fine of 50 crore to LG Polymers for the Sterling gas leak causing public health hazards. ठीक, अब देखते हैं emphasize the important, अब ये यहाँ emphasize the importance of environment protection in 19 as a comprehensive legislation covering air, water, soil and noise pollution. ठीक, अम्ब्रेला लेजिस्लेशन इसे कह सकते हैं. एक्सप्लेन द रोल ऑफ GEAC इन बायोसेफ्टी मेजर्स एंड NGT सिग्निफिकेंस इन स्पीडी रिड्रेसल इन क्लाइमेट environmental grievances. India's environment report highlight NGT's role in improving air quality, especially in Delhi NCR, through orders on vehicular emission and construction dust control. UNEP's global environment outlook appreciate India's initiative in environmental governance, particularly through NGT model. अब देखते हैं. Environment Protection Act of India was enacted in 1986. Environment Protection Act 1986 was enacted following the Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984. It is considered umbrella legislation consolidating all previous laws relating to environmental protection. ठीक, की ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है एक्ट का? प्रोटेक्शन एंड इम्प्रूवमेंट ऑफ इन्वायरमेंट, establishes standards for emission and discharge of pollutants. Authority of central government. Section 3 empowers the central government to appoint authorities to prevent environmental pollution. ठीक, environmental impact assessment mandates EIA for industrial projects and infrastructure development. ठीक, historical context. Article 253 of the Indian Constitution provide the legal basis for the act, enabling the parliament to implement international agreements such as those from the Stockholm Conference 1972. The act was last amended in 1991, incorporating stricter norms and hazardous waste management and pollution control. ठीक, when Environment Protection Act for preservation and protection of the environment was passed by Government of India 1986. ठीक, the Environment Protection Act 1986 aims to address specific environmental problems across different parts of the country. ठीक, empowers central government to regulate industrial procedures, control emissions and manage hazardous waste, prohibit the use of substances that pose a risk to the environment. एग्जाम्पल क्या है देख लेते हैं. regulations on plastic waste management were strengthened under this act through the plastic waste management rules 2016. ठीक, अब आते हैं हम लोग. इन्वायरमेंटल प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट इन इंडिया वॉज इनेक्टेड इन विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग ईयर? तो 1986 में. द एक्ट वॉज ए डायरेक्ट रिस्पॉन्स to the Bhopal gas tragedy and international obligation for the Stockholm Conference 1972. Consider the foundation of environmental legislation in India, integrating air, water and soil pollution laws. ठीक, अब वाटर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल ऑफ पॉल्यूशन एक्ट 1974 आया. फिर एयर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल ऑफ पॉल्यूशन एक्ट 1981 आया. देखिए, तो सबसे पहले वाइल्ड लाइफ आया, फिर वाटर आया, फिर एयर आया, नहीं फिर फॉरेस्ट आया, फिर एयर आया, फिर क्या आया अपना ये इन्वायरमेंट आया. ठीक, इन विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग ईयर्स ऑफ द इन्वायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट वाज 1986. Environment Protection Act 1986 provide a framework for pollution control measures introduced after Bhopal gas leak, emphasize the need for comprehensive environmental legislation. Environmental standards establishes standard for emissions, pollutant discharge, waste management. Inspection powers authorizes government officials to inspect sites and collect samples for analysis. In which of the following year the Environment Protection Act passed? The Government of India Act 1986. Act empowers the central government to set procedures for handling hazardous substances, regulate industrial activities that affect the environment, enforce penalties for non-compliance, including fines and imprisonment. ठीक, केस स्टडी गंगा एक्शन प्लान 1986. The act facilitated regulations on industries polluting the Ganga river, promoting cleaner practices. ठीक, when the Environment Protection Act for Protection and Preservation of Environment was passed in Government of India Act 1986, the act is pivotal for enforcing environmental safeguards and implementing international environmental agreements. Authorities under Section 3. These authorities are tasked with preventing environmental pollution and addressing region-specific environmental challenges. ठीक, 1981 में एयर, ठीक, फिर प्रिवेंशन ऑफ कंट्रोल ऑफ पॉल्यूशन एक्ट 1981 फोकसिंग ऑन एयर क्वालिटी मैनेजमेंट. ठीक, इंट्रोड्यूस द consent to operate system for industry ensuring pollution control compliance. 1995, 2000, 1992, 1995. These years do not correlate with any significant amendments on new environmental legislation in India related to Environment Protection Act. 1982 और 1974 में देखा जाए, the Water Prevention and Control Pollution Act was enacted in 1974, laying the foundation of water pollution control in India. ठीक, 1972 में क्या आया? वाइल्ड लाइफ वाटर 1974 में, फॉरेस्ट 1980 में, एयर 1981 में, 1986 में इन्वायरमेंट, 2002 में बायोडाइवर्सिटी, ऐसे कुछ. इट इस्टेब्लिश पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड्स, मतलब जो वाटर प्रिवेंशन एंड कंट्रोल ऑफ पॉल्यूशन एक्ट था, इसने क्या किया? पॉल्यूशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड्स की स्थापना की फॉर मॉनिटरिंग वाटर क्वालिटी. ठीक, इन्वायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट EPA इज ऑल्सो नोन एज अम्ब्रेला लेजिस्लेशन. क्यों? Environment Protection Act 1986 is termed umbrella legislation as it overarches and integrates various environmental laws in India, जैसे enacted in response to Bhopal gas tragedy 1984 and to meet international obligation from the Stockholm Conference 1972. Comprehensive framework क्या? Covers air, water, soil and hazardous waste management. Central government's powers under Section 3 can appoint authorities to prevent environmental pollution, can issue directions, impose penalties and prohibits activities that harm the environment. Closure of industries in Delhi NCR क्या है? NGT used the EPA 1986 to shut down polluting industries to control air pollution in Delhi. ठीक, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is constituted under इसी के अंदर Environment Protection Act 1986 के अंदर. Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is constituted under the Environment Protection Act 1986, established initially as Genetic Engineering Approval Committee, renamed Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee on 22nd July 2010. ठीक, regulation of GMOs, oversees approval, import, manufacture and commercial use of genetically modified organism, biosafety measures, ensures safety of GMOs concerning human health and environmental protection. Which one of the following has been constituted under Environment Protection Act 1986? तो Central Groundwater Authority. Okay, Central Groundwater Authority was established under Section 3 of Environment Protection Act 1986. क्या? Regulate and control groundwater management, issues regulatory direction for groundwater extraction, development and management. ठीक, penal provisions, enforces penalties under Section 15 to 21 of EPA 1986 for violations issuing direction under section 5 of the act can issue directions for environmental conservation. ठीक, CGWA has been instrumental in drafting policies like groundwater extraction ground guidelines 2020 to control over exploitation of groundwater resources. Which of the following is related to protection of ecological balances? तो सारे इकोलॉजिकल बैलेंस के लिए वो हैं। फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी 1980 में आई थी शायद, नहीं 1988 में आई थी। इन्वायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट 1986, इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी, एजुकेशन पॉलिसी, सारा तो है। जैसे फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी, नेशनल फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसी 1988 प्रमोट्स इकोलॉजिकल स्टेबिलिटी, कंजर्वेशन, बायोडाइवर्सिटी एंड सस्टेनेबल यूज ऑफ रिसोर्सेज। Environment Protection Act 1986, umbrella legislation ensuring pollution control, wildlife protection, ecosystem conservation. Industrial policy regulate industries to minimize environmental degradation, including adaptation of green technologies. Education policy, National Education Policy 2020 emphasizes environmental education awareness about sustainability. Holistic approach, the protection of ecological balance requires a multifaceted strategy including legal measures, policy intervention and public awareness initiatives. ठीक, National Green Tribunal 2010 was established on the 18th October 2010 under the National Green Tribunal Act 2010. Objective of NGT, speedy disposal of environmental cases, resolve disputes related to environmental protection, forest conservation, natural resource management. Article 21, right to life, upholds the right to healthy environment as a part of right to life. Article 21, Indian Constitution. Vijag gas leak 2020 imposed 50 crore fine on LG Polymers for environmental negligence. Yamuna flood plains case 2016 fined Art of Living Foundation for damaging Yamuna flood plains during World Culture Festival. नेशनल ग्रीन ट्राइब्यूनल ये 18 अक्टूबर 2010 को फॉर्म हुआ था। इसके 5 बेंचेस हैं। प्रिंसिपल बेंच है न्यू दिल्ली में, रीजनल है भोपाल, पुणे, कोलकाता और चेन्नई। मैंडेट प्रोटेक्टिंग द एनवायरनमेंट, कंजर्विंग फॉरेस्ट एंड एड्रेसिंग पब्लिक ग्रीवेंसेस रिलेटेड टू एनवायरमेंटल इश्यूज। Which of the following is not true for India to combat the adverse impact of climate change? Which of the following is not true for India to combat the adverse impact of climate change? Establishment of clean development mechanism, ये सही है। Investment of rupees 100 crores as an initial corpus under National Adaptation Fund, सही है। Not attended the 19th meeting of BASIC at Sun City, South Africa held recently, ये गलत है। ठीक। क्लीन डेवलपमेंट मैकेनिज्म क्या है? डिफाइंड अंडर आर्टिकल 12 ऑफ क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल ऑफ UNFCCC फ्रेमवर्क कन्वेंशन ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज। अब ये क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस को लेकर है। ठीक। ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है? अलाउज डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज एनेक्स बी पार्टीज विथ एमिशन रिडक्शन कमिटमेंट to implement emission reduction projects in developing countries. Certified emission reductions, such projects earn saleable CER credits. Certified emission reduction with each credit equal to 1 ton of CO2. The CERs can be traded to meet Kyoto Protocol targets. ठीक। Delhi Metro was the first railway project in the world to receive carbon credits from the CDM for reducing greenhouse gas emission. ठीक है। नेशनल एडेप्टेशन फंड फॉर क्लाइमेट चेंज इस्टेब्लिश कब हुआ था? 2015 में। इनिशियल कॉर्पस 100 करोड़ था टू सपोर्ट एडेप्टेशन प्रोजेक्ट्स इन स्टेट्स, यूनियन टेरिटरी वल्नरेबल टू क्लाइमेट चेंज, फोकस ऑन क्लाइमेट रिजिलियंट एग्रीकल्चर, वाटर कंजर्वेशन एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट। ठीक। अब जैसे देखा जाए मिजोरम क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस प्रोजेक्ट funded by NAFCC to enhance adaptive capacity of local communities in vulnerable regions. Basic groups ये कौन से हैं? बेसिक कंट्रीज ब्राज़ील, साउथ अफ्रीका, इंडिया एंड चाइना. 19th मीटिंग ऑफ बेसिक हेल्ड इन सन सिटी, साउथ अफ्रीका. इंडिया एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेटेड advocating for climate finance and technology transfer to developing countries. National Green Tribunal Act 2010 was enacted in consonance with which of the following provisions of the Constitution of India? Right to healthy environment constructed as a part of right to life under Article 21. सही है. Provision of grants for raising the level of administration in scheduled areas for welfare of scheduled tribes under Article 275(1) नहीं. Powers of function of Gram Sabha is mentioned in Article 243A नहीं. ठीक. Article 21 right to life includes right to healthy environment as interpreted by Supreme Court. Subhas Kumar versus State of Bihar 1991 recognized clean environment as a fundamental right. MC Mehta versus Union of India laid the foundation of environmental jurisprudence in India. ठीक. Article 275 and 243 ये क्या कहता है? 275(1) provides grants in aid to scheduled areas for welfare of scheduled tribes not directly related to environmental legislation. ठीक. 243A defines powers of Gram Sabha with a focus on local governance, not specific to environmental protection. ठीक. NGT Act 2010 primarily aligns with Article 21 ensuring environmental justice part of right to life. ठीक. मतलब NGT Act align करता है खुद को. How is National Green Tribunal different from the Central Pollution Control Board? NGT has been established by an act whereas CPCB has been created executive order of the government. ऐसा नहीं है, मतलब ये एक्ट के थ्रू है. सही है. NGT provides environmental justice and help reduce burden of litigation in higher courts, whereas CPCB promotes cleanliness of streams and wells and aims to improve quality of air in country. ये सही है. National Green Tribunal establishes under National Green Tribunal Act 2010 a judicial body dedicated to environmental protection and expeditious disposal of cases. Central Pollution Control Board statutory body है. ठीक. Established under Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, not through an executive order. Hence statement 1 is incorrect. NGT provides environmental justice, reducing litigation burden on higher courts. CPCB focuses on cleanliness of streams and wells, air quality improvement and enforcement of pollution control measures. ठीक. CPCB also advises the central government on environmental policies and conduct research on pollution management. The National Green Tribunal came into force in October 2010. NGT was established on 18 October 2010 under National Green Tribunal Act 2010. It was formed for effective and expeditious disposal of cases related to environmental protection, conservation of forest and other natural resources. अब देखते हैं एजुकेटिव civil cases under environmental laws including Environment Protection Act 1986, Forest Conservation Act 1980, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. Follows principle of sustainable development, precautionary principle and polluter pays principle. ठीक. India's proactive measures like clean development mechanism, National Adaptation Fund and active participation in basic meeting reflect its commitment to combating climate change. And the NGT, in alignment with Article 21, has strengthened India's environmental and governance through landmark judgments and policies. ठीक. यहाँ तक हो गया हम लोग का कंप्लीट. थैंक यू. बाय बाय.